Alright, thank you again for everyone who's offered to help me with this. Here is the Rapidstrike in question. Hopefully the video will come out okay. I'll check it when I get it uploaded. I pretty much just followed Foam Data's rewire guide. The probably biggest difference is instead of using blue for the jumper leads, I've used yellow. But again, for the most part, all of the connections that he mentioned in his guide are right here. So you can see power coming in from the flywheel cage. The connections are good in the flywheel cage. Comes in into the acceleration switch here. Goes from the acceleration switch to the main trigger switch. From the main trigger switch up to the pusher control switch. And then from there you have the negative leads coming from the pusher box, negative lead going out to the flywheel cage, back out to the battery, and the appropriate jumpers. Don't know if that sound is coming through of the pusher control switch clicking. And you see I push it down and it stops clicking. Part of my frustration, which I didn't put in the post, is just specifically how to mount the pusher switch itself. As you can see, here I have it mounted with screws. The first time I mounted it, I tried using hot glue, which I know is not recommended, not a preferred choice, but it cures quickly, it's easy to work with. It's what I set the other two switches with here, and they're really well set, they're secure, but the hot glue didn't hold it. I don't know if it was I didn't have enough curing time, if it didn't what was going on, but it didn't hold it in place. So then I moved on to DevCon. Just your average 5-minute epoxy 2-part gel, and I tried that. First time I let it set, cure for an hour, then tried to solder the connections onto the pusher switch. At that point, the hold of the epoxy weakened, so I went ahead and desoldered everything, mixed up a new batch of the epoxy, and then let it cure for 24 hours before going back and trying to resolder the connections. Because to me it was easier to solder these lines while it was attached to the plate, as opposed to trying to solder the connections to the switch and then have to mount the switch to the plate with these wires in place. So after the 24-hour cure, I went back and worked at it again, and again the epoxy let go. I don't know if it's just not enough curing time, which I don't think is the case. 24 hours should be plenty of time. I don't know if the heat from the soldering iron is actually causing the plastic of the plate to melt and let go of the other side of that bond, or if there's just something else causing it, if it just wasn't getting a good enough grip. After that point, the hot glue didn't work, the DevCon didn't work, so I moved on to mounting screws. Went ahead and drilled holes with a pin vise, set the screws, and it's holding great, but the position seems to be off, causing the problem. So let's go ahead and see the problem in action. I have a AA battery holder, 4-cell AA battery holder here. Already, even just putting power in, you can see that runaway firing is caused. Okay, so the switch is depressed, the battery's in, power's going, and this is what's happening. So I'm going to see if we can get a close-up of the switch actually moving. Now you can kind of see so if you go back and look at that video, you can kind of see this red wire right here is twitching, moving up and down, very faint. But that is the plate being moved up and down by the moving of the pusher arm itself. At this point, my thought is that I actually have the switch mounted too high on the plate. I know the Torok Makto offered some other suggestions on positioning, which I'll have to look into taking in order to get this taken care of. But that's my thought at the moment. The other thing that has me kind of concerned, worried, annoyed about the whole thing is if the problems with the super glue and the DevCon continue to happen, I don't know how I'm going to bond the switch to the plate. At this point, the moving the switch over is going to be such a slight increment that drilling new holes really isn't going to be an option, because it's just going to be practically on top of the old holes. I'm just not going to get the same kind of grip. The screws are just going to naturally seek out the old holes instead of trying to fill any new holes, even when trying to drill the hole itself. So I'm kind of at my wit's end for that. Not sure where to go. So if you guys can, look it over. If you need any other questions answered, please feel free, and I appreciate your help. Thank you.